Okay, guys, so I'd like to welcome everyone to GDG Soweto. No, I think everyone who's here probably knows who we are, what we do, but if you don't, so we're part of the Google developers groups and our chapter is Soweto. So today we have one of our frequent speakers, Rosario, is here with us. Without further ado, Rosario, please introduce yourself and tell us about your talk, and then you can kick off from there, bro.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon. I think I'll start by sharing my screen. That should make things easier for us. Anyone, please let me know once you see it.
We can see it.
Okay, perfect. Hi everyone. My name is Rosario Fernandes. I'm a GDE for Firebase. If you don't know what GDE is, it stands for Google Developer Expert. You can find my Twitter handle there in this slide if you want to chat about anything that we discuss here today. I will also leave the handle once again at the end of the presentation, and so that in case you have any questions or anything to ask, you can go ahead and reach out to me on Twitter. So today we're talking about a bit about Android, a bit about Firebase, and how Firebase can help you personalize Android apps. So before I start, let me just quickly tell you a bit about me. I'm from Mozambique. I work as an Android developer. I'm a developer expert for Firebase, like I said before. And on my free time, I love contributing to open source and playing video games. As you can see from this list of things here, one thing that is not mentioned here is UX designer or UX expert or anything like that. So this talk is mostly focused on user experience, or in short, it's called UX. But even though I'm talking about UX here, I'm not any kind of expert, so I might say some things wrong. I might be having the wrong ideas for some concepts. I'm talking mostly in a developer perspective because I'm a developer. So I want you guys to also see it probably from my perspective. Okay, so don't focus too much on the UX part of it. Let's focus more on the developer side of things. Also, this I think this presentation is not gonna have like many code. There's only like a few lines of code. It's mostly about using a console, using a web interface, and then configuring some stuff, and then getting the results from it, and maybe creating reports and stuff. So don't expect much code from this. So let's move on. Let's start with the main technology for today, which is called Firebase. So what is Firebase? I like to say that Firebase is a unified platform for application development.
It's
So
interesting.
Firebase is a platform that gives you a very large list of tools. So all the tools that you see here are provided by Firebase, and you can get tools such as a database, you can get an authentication service, you can get uh, a place to store your files or any user files and things like that. So you have a lot of services all in one platform, and this is called like a backend-less platform, which means you don't need to create and maintain your own backend for your app. You can simply use Firebase as a backend, and then all your effort will be towards developing the front end of your app. So Firebase is basically available for three platforms, but it's also available in other ones. But the main three are Android, iOS, and the web. And so most of those tools are available for all three of them. Some are not, but I'll not focus too much on that today, because today I will actually be focusing on three tools that Firebase provides, and that's Google Analytics, remote config, and A/B testing. The main idea, like the idea why I proposed this topic for today, is to actually talk about remote config personalization, which is a new feature that was recently introduced. So I'll actually be taking you over A/B testing just to make it easier for you to understand personalization, just so that I don't jump to the end and then you don't understand anything. I'll be doing like beginner steps so that we get there, and hopefully we can all understand, and maybe if necessary we can have a discussion about it at the end. So first things first, let me introduce you to Firebase. So if you want to get started with it, you can just head over to this site, which I'm gonna leave on the chat, which is console.firebase.google.com. And once you're there, you should see a screen like this. Oops. You should see a screen like this, which tells you, which just welcomes you to Firebase, and from there you can start creating projects and things like that. So once you're there, you can go ahead and create a project. I'm actually using those slides from a previous presentation that I did, but this is not gonna be my project name for today. So please ignore the details that I'm inputting here. So how do you create a project? As you can see, there are three steps. This is step one. You give it a name. Once you continue, you get Google Analytics options for your project. And Google Analytics is actually one of the tools we're gonna use today. So be sure to enable it for the project. And then in the third step, they're gonna ask you for more details about Google Analytics so that you can configure it to your location. So once you're done, you should see a screen like this. So this is like your project has been created on the Firebase console. And on the left side, you can see there should be a list of all the products that Firebase can offer for this project. So what I'm gonna do right now is connect Firebase to my Android app. So how do you do that? You can go ahead and click on this. I think you can see this round Android icon here in the middle where it says get started by adding Firebase to your app. You click on it and then you should get redirected to a screen like this. So in this screen, you'll need to type the Android package name, which is usually your application ID in Android Studio. Those two other fields are optional, so I'm gonna skip them for now. And then on the second step, they'll ask you to download a JSON file. You download this file and then you copy it over to your app folder on your Android project. So here in the screenshot, they're actually trying to show you how to do that. Should be easy, I think. And then once you've done that, the third step is to add those dependencies to actually two files. So on the first file, it's the project level build.gradle file. And in this file, you're gonna add the Google Services dependency using class path. And then on the second file, that's the app level build.gradle, you're gonna add these lines. So in the first line, we're basically adding the Firebase as a platform. So we are importing what they call bill of materials, or in short, it's BOM. And then we import each of the tools we're going to use. So like I said in the beginning, we're only using two tools. The first one is remote config, and the second one is analytics. So that's why I have two more lines here. One imports Firebase config, the other one imports Firebase analytics. Once you've done that, you're all set. We can get started. So not gonna jump straight to code. What we're actually gonna do is talk a bit about each of the products so that we can get a better understanding of what they do. So let's start with remote config. Basically, remote config is a simple key value store that lives in the cloud, which means you can store some data that looks like this example here, where you can see a key and then a value assigned to it, and you're gonna leave it on the cloud. So you're gonna leave it on Firebase. Why would you do that? In cases where you need to maybe customize a certain aspect of your app, and you might need to change that value often. So you don't want to maybe like send a new update to the Play Store for the user to have that thing updated. You want it to be done like in the same version that the user already has. So, for example, if you have a button that right now it's let's say blue, and maybe during Christmas you might want to change that button to look red, and you don't want to like send a new update to the Play Store for the user to download the red button. So it might be easier to just store that color in Firebase remote config. That way, whenever you update the color on the Firebase platform, all of your users will get that new color. They will not need to download a new version of the app to get the new color, right? So how do you do that? First, you'll need to provide some default values. So let's say right now this is the color. It should be blue. So you provided some default keys and their respective values. So right now I'm using here I'm configuring two parameters. One is the button label. So I want to specify what I want to be written in the button. So right now I want it to be a sign up button. So the button is gonna say sign up for free. And the color is gonna be blue. So here's the X code for this color, sorry. So the key for this parameter, I called it button underscore color. The key for the other parameter, I called button underscore label. So once I specify my default values in an XML file, I can then, in my Kotlin code or Java, if you're still using Java, you can call Firebase remote config and then call this method set defaults async. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna load your XML file, and then it's gonna get the default values and use those throughout the app. And whenever you need to fetch new values from the server, you can simply go ahead and call remote config dot fetch and activate. So if the default color is blue and the server has a different color, let's say red, once you call fetch and activate, remote config will get this new color. It will get the red color, and it will apply to your app. So the user should now see red instead of the default, which used to be blue. There's a bit more code that you need to set up before you use it. So you're probably wondering like where do I tell my app that here you should use this color and not that color. So this is where you do that. So in your fragment or in your activity, depending on what you're using for your UI, you can go ahead and load those values from remote config, and you do that by calling remote config dot get string. I'm calling get string because those values that are set here are actually strings. But if you're configuring an integer, if you're configuring a long value or anything else, there are actually appropriate methods for that. You have methods like get long, get double, and other data types. So as you can see in this case, I'm trying to configure my button, and I'm setting the label that I'm getting from remote config, and I'm also setting the background color that I'm also loading from remote config. So this is a short example of what remote config does. Basically, you have some parameters. You can load them from the cloud. You don't need to change them in the code every time that you want to deploy a new change. You can just change on the go, and then the user will instantly get this new value, and that's fine. But sometimes you might face situations where your team or even just you're debating whether blue should be better, orange should be better, which color should I use for this button, which color is going to look better, which color calls the user attention. So sometimes taking this decision by yourself may not be the best option. Maybe you want to rely on users, but how are we gonna do that? How are we gonna ask our user what works better for them. Of course, you could set up a form and then share it with your users, like, please review us, please tell us which color is better, how do you feel and stuff. But then this takes time, and then not every user might be willing to do this. So what you can do is actually use some metrics. And in order to collect metrics, we can use this tool called Google Analytics. And basically, what Google Analytics does is track user events. What's a user event? Let's say your user uh, clicked on the shopping cart button. That's an event. Let's say your user signed up for the first time. That's an event. Let's say they finally completed a purchase. They completed a level in your game. Those are all user events. So Google Analytics helps you get those events, and then at the end of the week, at the end of the month, you can check stats for those events. You can see, for example, how many users completed the level or a specific level. For example, let's say how many users completed level 5 in my app, how many users made a purchase in my app, how many users, and then you can start comparing stuff. So for example, you can see how many users actually added things to their shopping cart, and then how many users actually finished or completed the purchase, so that you can compare. Maybe if the number of people who added things to the cart but didn't finish a purchase is too high, you can then say like, hey, people are adding things to the cart in my app but they're not purchasing, and then you can try and figure out why is this behavior happening, what's going on, and then you can work on better ways to improve that. I hope that is clear, but then in case it's not, feel free to interrupt me and ask a question. I'll be happy to answer it. So what does that mean in code? Basically, you can simply call Firebase Analytics dot log event, and then specify which event you're logging. So in this example, I'm logging two events. One of them is when the sign up button is clicked. I log this event called sign up started, and once the user has finished signing up, I log another event saying sign up finished. And why do I do this? Why do I have started and finished? Because in some cases, a user might start the sign up process, but then he gets stuck for some reason. Maybe his account is blocked. Maybe the app is not available in his country. Maybe something may have happened in between, and then he might not finish the sign up process. So if I have some metrics or some data in my analytics console regarding this, like how many users actually started but didn't finish, I can then try and work with those users and find out what happened, why did they not finish the sign up process. So analytics, in short, does something like this. We try to collect some information about our users. We try to see how our app is performing in the real world. And that's where A/B testing comes in. What A/B testing does basically is it separates your users into groups. So you have group A, you have group B. And let's say you can decide whether you want the button to be blue or to be orange. So with A/B testing, you can have group A trying out the blue button, and then you can have group B trying out the orange button. And then from there, you can get some metrics or some stats regarding both groups, so that you see which group is more inclined to actually finish the sign up process. So if a certain group is performing better, you can then decide that, okay, the orange button is working better than the blue one. Let's keep the orange button and let's proceed. So that's basically what A/B testing does. And it's a feature that Firebase provides, but I think there are many other software that can also help you with A/B testing. Um, Again, this is not new. This is not the point of this presentation, but I'm getting there. So in the meantime, I'll explain you a bit of A/B testing. So in order to create an A/B test on Firebase, you just head over here to where it says A/B testing on the left side. You click on it, you should see a screen like this, and then you can create where it's you can click, sorry, where it says create experiment. Once you click on it, it's gonna ask you which service do you want to use. I'll go ahead and use remote config. And then let's say we are wondering what's the best color for our sign up button. So that's what I'm gonna use as a description. The experiment name is gonna say sign up button test. And then they're gonna ask me who do I want to target with this experiment. And right now I'm gonna test with my Android app. So I select the Android app, and they're gonna ask me what are my goals. So what am I planning to achieve with this? And as you remember from when I explained remote config, when I explained about analytics, we were logging this event called sign up finished. So whenever the user finishes signing up, this event is logged. So this is gonna be our goal. We want to increase the number of people who actually finish signing up. So that's why I set that as my primary metric to track. And then optionally, you can add some additional metrics to track. And I think Firebase already adds those as a default. So you have retention. So you want to make sure that your users are coming back to your app. You don't want users to leave your app just because you changed the button color. And you want to make sure that your users are crash free. So that's why that's another additional metric. Once you've set your goal, you can move to the next step, which is when you create the variants. So you have what's called the baseline. So here you can see this B control group at the top. The baseline is basically the default value that you set for that button. And that's like a baseline for you to have something to compare to. So you can set that default value. Let's say we're going with blue, and then you can have another variant. So here I created two variants. The first one on top is V1. That's the purple variant, where we have a different color for the button and a different label. And then we have V2, which is a second variant, which is the orange one. So let's say we have another color and another label for that button. So we have the baseline and two variants, and we're gonna run our experiment with that. So what does this mean? This means that there's a group of people who are gonna get the purple variant. There's a group of people who are gonna get the orange variant, and then there's a group of people who just gets. And the baseline is usually small, so the last group of people is gonna be pretty small, but it's gonna be a group of users who are getting the baseline, which is the blue button that I set up here as my baseline control group. Once I've done that, once I've finished setting my variants, Firebase is gonna tell us to wait for the experiment data to arrive. So depending on how large your app is, this can take like let's say 25 hours, 36. So you should wait for 1 or 2 days before checking back. And once the results are out, you're gonna get notified, and then you're gonna get a screen like this where you can see some results regarding your experiment. So you get some percentages and stuff, and from here you can see, for example, things like the probability of a variant to beat your baseline or your control group. And as you can see in this example, you can see that there are two variants here. One is called back to school, the other one is called level up to unlock. And from here you can see that level up has 100% chance of beating the baseline, while back to school has 97. And then you can also see the probability to be the best variant here. So level up seems like it's gonna be the best. So in the end, you can, as you see those results, you can just decide from there. I would probably go with level up. It seems like it has the best probability to win all of them. So I'll probably go with that. And this is basically what A/B testing is. You run an experiment, you get the results, and then based on those results, you can then choose how do you want to go forward with your app, like which color do you want for your button going forward, which label do you want for it, and things like that. You can use to configure many different things in your app. So everything I've shown so far is mostly using statistics, basic statistics. There's nothing fancy. There's nothing, no intelligent, no artificial intelligence, no machine learning, nothing. The A/B testing simply does statistics for you. Now I'm gonna talk about this new feature called remote config personalization. And what remote config personalization does is it uses machine learning to determine which color, which button label, or which experience should be the best for your users. So it works very similar to A/B testing, and it's very easy to confuse both of them. But I'll try to explain you guys a bit of what's the difference and when do you choose one over the other. But first, let's talk more about remote config personalization. So I wanted to bring a real world example, but unfortunately I couldn't bring one that I ran myself because the data was kind of confidential. So I had to just grab an example that was available online. So this is the example. This is a game called Bingo Blast, and they have this parameter on remote config called ratings prompt mean completions. So they, as the description says, this is supposed to show ratings prompt after this many successful level completions. So as you can see, the value that is set here is 3. So in the game, if you complete 3 levels, you'll get a prompt asking you to rate the game. And this, in theory, it's fine. But in some cases, some users might complain that maybe they haven't played enough to actually be able to rate it. They might prefer to rate it later. So that's why, or maybe the user enjoyed himself so much he already wants to rate it right after he finished the first level. So that's why we can maybe personalize this parameter so that it doesn't always, it isn't always set to 3. Let's maybe try and add some alternatives. So what we're gonna do is we click on the edit parameter button to edit this parameter, and then there's gonna be a button here called, actually this is actually covering the button, I'm sorry, but there should be a button here saying add new. Once you click on add new, you'll see this list of options where it says conditional value, experiment, and personalization. I already talked about the experiment, which is the A/B testing that I just spoke about. And now you can click on personalization. As the description says, it uses machine learning to choose what value is best for what user. So once you click on it, it's gonna ask you to add some alternative values. So for that parameter, I'm gonna add different values. So I'm gonna add 1, and then 4, and then 8. We want to make sure that we add a very large interval of numbers so that the difference is actually noticeable to the user. I shouldn't add things like 1, 2, 3 because then uh, a user might not notice any difference. So we're adding 1, 4, 8. Those are very separate numbers. It's easy to tell a difference between 1 level completion, 4 level completions, and then 8 levels completed. So we proceed, and just like the A/B testing, I think you still remember that in A/B testing we set a goal for us. Here it's the same thing. We're setting an objective. So we want to make sure that the user actually finishes the review dialog. So the event that Bingo Blast is using is called review dialog accepted. Like I said, this is an event from Google Analytics. That's why you need Google Analytics before you use remote config personalization. And then just like A/B testing, you can also set additional metrics. So in this example, they're actually using user engagement time because they don't want the rating dialog to actually have any kind of influence on the user engagement. And finally, you need to add a target. This is also similar to what we did in A/B testing. You just select your Android app and you can save and publish your personalization. So once you do that, as you can see in this picture, the personalization system is gonna split. It's gonna send different parameters to each user. So a group of users is gonna get the review dialog after one level. Another group is gonna get after 4 levels, and another group will get after 8 levels. And the good thing about this feature is that it runs on machine learning, so it learns over time. So as it notices that maybe some user is not happy with getting the dialogue after one level, they're gonna move that user and put it in another group and test if he likes the 4 levels. And then from that, in case there's also problems with that, it's gonna try and put him on another group until it finds the best group for that user. So that's the main advantage of using remote config personalization. It learns over time. So if your user needs to be moved to another group, it's gonna try that. If it seems like a user started in one group but now it's behaving differently, it's gonna move it to the most appropriate group for it, and it keeps repeating this over and over again to achieve the best results for each of your users. So after you publish it, you can come back to the console, you can open that parameter, and as you can see here, you can see the options that you set under personalization. So there's the default value, which used to be 3, and there's our personalization options. So we had 1, 4, and 8, and then we can click on it to actually see more details, and you'll be directed to this screen. And as you can see, it says your personalization is outperforming the baseline by 13%. So that's good because that means that we users are actually accepting more to review the app with the parameters that we set in the personalization rather than the default parameter that we had set, which used to be 3. So that's good. That means our personalization is actually working for us. And here at the bottom, we can see a graph with some more stats about what's happening and how does the personalization compare to the baseline.
Rosario,
You
can
can
I
also see the
interrupt you
additional
there?
metrics. Yes,
Okay, so we had a
yes.
question in the chat. Lesego wanted to know if it uses TensorFlow under the hood.
Good question, let's say how. To be honest, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing since it's a Google product, it probably does.
Yeah, most
So my
probably.
answer, my answer would be maybe.
Good one.
Thank you, Liseho. Thank you, Simon. Okay, so as I was saying, you also get some results regarding the additional metrics that you set. So in this case, we had set user engagement time. So you also get a nice graph showing you how has the engagement time behaved during this time when you were running the personalization. Even though it says it reduced, you can actually see from the graph that it kept doing ups and downs. So it's not that bad because it's not going too far apart from the baseline. So I would say this is not bad. It's just that it's been oscillating and there's nothing really bad happening. It would be bad if you saw like the baseline graph going far apart from the personalization graph. That would be something that you would consider concerning for you. And another thing you might want to try is to click on this little button at the bottom where it says show all scaled baseline values, because then you can see the value for each one of the variants that you created or the alternatives that you created. And as you can see, the third value, which was 8, is actually performing better than value 2 and value 1. So 8 may be the best option right now, but I don't think it's noticeable in this picture. But there's this blue bar before the second bar from the left to the right. It seems to me like it's performing better than the three values. So it means that this means that personalization is actually working better than all of the three personalized. That means that each user is getting their own value, and that has been working way better than the group of users that is getting the value 8. So you might want to keep this on and then just go on with your life, because then your users will be getting each one will be getting a personalized experience. And from what we see in the stats here, that has been working fine for them. So that's all about personalization. That's what it does. It just tries different values for each user. Whenever they see it's not working, they try and change it and make sure that each user gets the best value that works for them. Now, oh, I actually have a screenshot of this of what I was saying. Like the blue bar actually has 75, which is way more than the what the orange bar had, which used to be 70. So this means that all of them being personalized is working better than just one of them. So when would you use A/B testing? When would you use personalization? So you should go for A/B testing when you need a single experience for all your users in the long term. Because when you use personalization, you're just gonna set up those random values, and then each one of your users is gonna get a different experience every time they're on your app. While if you use A/B testing, you can test with different groups of users. Like group A is gonna get one, group B is gonna get another one, but then at the end you're gonna make a choice. So at the end you'll either go with one, you'll either go with four, or you'll go with 8. At the end, everyone is gonna get the same experience. Nothing's gonna change. So if that's what you need, go with A/B testing. Also, go with A/B testing whenever you have like a fixed time window to choose the best experience. So A/B testing is good because you're running those tests for a set amount of time. Once that's done, you get the results, you get that nice report, and then you can act on it. While in personalization, you're just leaving the feature running. The ML algorithm is gonna learn over time. It's gonna try and improve, and there's no fixed time limit to when that thing is gonna stop. It just keeps improving itself as your app runs on every device. Another reason to choose A/B testing is whenever you need more evaluation. If you have another metrics to consider, maybe you're not only relying on analytics. Maybe you need to take in account some other kind of analytics system that you might have. Maybe you want to take in account sales, so maybe you need to contact the sales department first to check. So that's another reason to use A/B testing, because you want to like run the test, you want to get the results, but then you also need to check on another results from a different platform, from a different system, or something else. While if you're using personalization, then you don't have that option, because once the machine learning model finds out that this is the best option, they're gonna run that best option, and then you don't have an option to tell it like, wait, maybe I should first check with sales. There's no option for that. You just go with whatever alternative that the ML system chose. And finally, when you need to do a manual review of your results, for example, maybe before you deploy that orange button, maybe you need to check with your employer, with the CTO, with the CEO, with someone from the marketing department, or anything else that might stop you from actually deploying that button in your company. You can actually like run the A/B test, get the results, and then you can maybe generate a nice report explaining why should we go with the orange button because our stats say this and that, and then you take that report up to the marketing department, to anyone that you need to talk to, and then they can tell you like, oh, okay, let's proceed with this, it's approved, or maybe they can say, no, we can't do this right now, you need someone else to sign it and stuff like that. So that's when you would prefer to go with A/B testing, because in personalization you don't have that option of like getting the list of results first before acting on it. On personalization, it just gets deployed to every user, and then every user might see it. While in A/B testing, you can actually choose when to deploy this change to every user. So that's it. I'll try to share the slides with you guys, because I also have those links which could be useful to share in case you want to learn more about remote config, about A/B testing, analytics, personalization, or anything else that I spoke about here. And that's all from me for today. Thank you so much for listening.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for presenting, Rosario. So I think what we'll do is that I'll read a few questions from the chat, and then I'll also open it
Mhm.
up for people who have questions, who want to actually ask questions via the mic. But before we do that, I'd like to ask everyone to activate their mics, because I feel like this talk was so good, it deserves a round of applause. So guys, please, please open up your mics, open up your mics. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Wonderful talk, Rosario. Amazing, man, amazing. Thanks again.
How about
Thank
Daniela?
you.
Fantastic. So let me read a few questions from the chat. Let's see.
That's
Okay,
great.
so first we have Nishkash asking that is Firebase a Google tool or not?
Yes, yes. Firebase is a Google tool. That's why I actually was telling Leseo that they probably use TensorFlow. So yes, TensorFlow, Firebase, they're both tools from Google.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And then next we have Tepo. Tepo asks that, are you aware of Firebase alternatives? Where will Firebase fare better than the alternatives based on your personal experience?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes, there are many Firebase alternatives. So what happens is like Firebase is it's mostly like a smaller version of the Google Cloud platform. So and you might know that Google Cloud has many alternatives out there. So Google has this product, but then Microsoft has their own cloud service. Amazon has their own cloud services. So those can also compare to Firebase, and
So I
then
have a
I
doubt.
think those. Sorry.
So actually I have a doubt. Can I
Yes,
ask?
sure,
Sure, go ahead,
sure.
Nishkash.
You can ask.
So actually I have a great doubt that Firebase is a Google tool or not.
Yes, it is a Google tool.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sure. So as I was saying, many of those cloud services can be Firebase alternatives. And I think where Firebase actually does better than those is the fact that most products are free for you to try, because the experience that I had with Amazon, with Google Cloud, with the Microsoft platform was that for all of those you actually need a credit card to sign up. So during sign up, you enter your credit card details, and then if you're done trying everything, and if for some reason you forget to cancel your subscription, then it's gonna charge you some amount for the things that you've been using over time. While in Firebase, you can just like get started with it for free. You don't need to add your credit card at the beginning. You can test your things, and then once you're done testing with it, if you find out that it's not the thing that you want to proceed with, you can just leave, and then they're not gonna charge you anything. So I would say that's from my experience, that's where Firebase does better than the other alternatives.
Okay, awesome. Any more questions, guys? Wow, Rosario, looks like you've left them speechless.
Great, man, great.
Fantastic. I'd like to thank you again, man.
Someone,
This was another good. Oh, we have Tepo there. Tepo,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yes.
You can go ahead, Tepo, with your question.
can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
Temple can hear you.
Oh, my question would be around documentation. What has been your experience with coming across a new tool and different maybe AWS and what is this Microsoft and Google? Which one would you say is like best documentation, especially for new developers and yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, from those you mentioned, I've only checked. Okay, maybe I've checked them all, but I've spent more time checking documentation from Google more than the other ones, and I would say Google has like the best documentation of the three of them, because it's very easy for you to just go there and then try and get started from there, and then you can actually get to a fully working app. While when I was in the AWS and on the Microsoft websites, it wasn't that easy, maybe to like get to the end. Like you can actually get started with it, but then when you want to like say, okay, I know this, I have some concepts, I want to make a fully working thing. That was a bit complicated. So I would say Google right now has the best documentation, even though I didn't spend much time on the other ones. But it's a personal answer. It's mostly based on my experience. I think Google does the best documentation than the other ones.
Cool,
Okay,
cool.
thank you.
Okay, guys, don't be shy. If there's more questions, go ahead. Okay, then I'm gonna take it from the silence that we have no more questions. Rosario, man, I don't know what you did, but man, you got some magic going on. I mean, you had so many people on for you today and you even retained them. So I was gonna say it's the good profile picture, but clearly it's also the good topic as well. So thanks a lot, man. This
Thank
has
you
been a
so much,
great talk.
Simon.
I also like to thank everyone who came to join us. Thank you guys. Thank you for being here with us. We also hope you join us on the next one. But for this one, we're very grateful to Rosario. Very grateful to you guys who joined us. I think it's been an awesome talk. I enjoyed it myself. Usually I love code, but the fact that I stayed glued to the screen, even though it was mostly GUI stuff, I'm happy with this. I love the talk. I hope you guys did too. Okay, guys. Thank you for joining. Bye, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, sir. Your explanation is really, really great.
Awesome. Yo, never mind. Sure.